Spotify was launched 12 years ago in 2008 with around 248 million users globally according to Wikipedia, with around 113 million of those who are on some sort of paid accounts.
What?
Apple Music, on the other hand, is a much younger service and only launched 5 years ago in 2015 with around 60 million users as of June 2019. I didn't find any further details, but I assume they are paying customers since there's no ad-based free version of Apple Music like Spotify. Anyway, with all the numbers aside, what I'm trying to say is that there are quite a lot of people who are on subscription-based music services, and the numbers seem to be growing day by day. What about me, you may ask? Well, I'm kind of asking myself the same question, to be honest. Should I join? Why didn't I join before? And would you join? That's what I want to discuss in this video. Hi, my name is Joe, and besides from my name, I can tell you that I like music. It's something super important to me. Just to give you an idea, nearly half of my phone has been taken up by music. That's the main reason why I spent the extra cost on the 256 gig iPhone. I like tech and I like music. In theory, this should be the perfect combination, with Spotify claiming to have around 50 million tracks and counting, and Apple Music already at around 60 million tracks, I believe. That's an insane amount of music that I will never own or be able to store on a device. Yet I'm kind of reluctant and dubious about music streaming. Here are the key areas that I'm not so sure about. First of all, the ongoing costs. Here in the UK, the price for the two are the same, $9.99 for a single user, $14.99 for a family with up to 6 accounts or users, whichever way you want to call it, and $4.99 for students. Basically, it's around 39p per day as a single user. If we put it like that, it doesn't seem too expensive, to be honest, but nonetheless, it's still around £120 a year, which does add up depending what other expenses you may have to pay in life. Which brings me to the second point. Once you stop paying with Apple Music, at least, you don't have access to the music anymore. Whereas if you bought the music in the shape of a CD or a digital copy at least, or maybe even vinyl, you will have access to it forever. I still have music in my library from 20 to 30 years ago, either ripped from CDs or even tapes, or I just have the original copy somewhere in the house. On the other hand, with Spotify, it's not as bad, as you can still listen to the music on the desktop or iPad, for example. Whereas on mobile phones, it's much more limited, I find, and plays your music in shuffle mode, so you can't really choose what you want to listen to anymore. The other pros and cons, depending on your personal view, if you buy a physical CD or vinyl or whatever option, you may get extra photos and literature with it, if it matters to you, that is. On the flip side, you may think it's a waste of space and more trash to recycle one day. Personally, I quite like having something physical. Also, there's the debate about audio quality. It's good enough from the streaming service, although I have a slight tendency to think that the audio disc does sound a little bit better. It might be placebo, but I feel like I can hear the difference between streaming and listening to an actual CD itself. The final area that I have concern about is about the files. I mentioned losing access to them when you stop paying, but what I mean is by streaming and not storing it on the device itself. In areas like undergrounds, low signal, or on a long-haul flight, for example, you won't have access to the music itself. Granted, these scenarios don't happen that often, and you can store the music offline, in offline mode that is. But just this week, I've had multiple issues with my phone and home broadband simultaneously, which means there was no internet, therefore, no music. On the flip side, my music library on the computer and on the phone is only going to grow over time, thus meaning that I will have to keep buying bigger capacity versions of the phone over time. And that's why I'm kind of going around in circles and I can't decide whether to join or not from what I've just said previously. With that all being said, I have finally taken the first small step and joined both at the same time for the 3-month free trial, that is. They are both absolutely free if you cancel before the 3-month time limit. If you do want to try out and not get charged, that is, I urge you to make a reminder or set an alarm in your calendar. With Spotify, you do have to enter your card details right away, but they won't charge you for the first 3 months, as mentioned. With Apple Music, it's similar, assuming you already have your card details stored in the App Store. It won't take your money until the end of the 3 months. I'm currently on my 2nd week or so using both. I have used Spotify as a free user for some time, so I'm relatively familiar with the interface. Only difference is there's no more ads anymore, and there's a bump up in audio quality too. Whereas with Apple Music, I am completely new to their surface, so I'm still trying everything out. Initial impressions? I have to say I'm kind of liking Apple Music more at the moment, not because I'm an Apple fanboy, but the major thing that I have found so far was that I seem to be able to find more music that I like on Apple Music. Maybe the 60 versus 50 million tracks does make a difference after all. There are just a couple of artists that I have found that are on Apple Music and not on Spotify. I haven't done like an extensive comparison between the two, but these seems to be my early observations. Besides from this, there really isn't a huge difference I can see between the two. Having said that, I have found that both platforms have failed to return some tracks that I want to listen to, especially some really obscure old stuff. But that's to be expected. I don't expect it to have like everything. That's the reason I like about having my own library. I know exactly what's there and not, whereas with streaming, I have to go and do a search now and then to see if by any chance they have added an artist or song to the library. But I guess I have to keep doing it to know when or if they have added a certain song. And finally, to give some credit to Spotify, it does seem more polished overall, like how it knows what you are listening to on a desktop and on a mobile device, and allows you to like synchronize between the two and to control each other with the other device. Also, I find Spotify a little bit faster at loading songs. Okay, time to wrap up. I'm sure this video is far too long already. I will continue to use both over the next coming months, and maybe I'll update again at the end to let you know if I have decided to stay and pay, but also which one I went for at the end, if I do decide to continue using it. Anyway, that's it for today's video. Thank you very much for watching if you have made it to the end of this video. And as always, I will see you next time.